Every single day somewhere in the world a dream dies. Not because the person wasn't talented enough, not because the opportunity never came, but because the mind, the very instrument that was supposed to carry that person to greatness, turned against them, silently, completely, without a single warning. And here's what nobody is telling you. It is happening to you right now. Not maybe, not possibly. Right now, today, the weak patterns running in your mind are making decisions about your future that your conscious self hasn't even agreed to yet. They're choosing comfort over courage, hesitation over action, the familiar grave over the terrifying unknown of your actual potential. But what you're about to hear, changes that. In the next few minutes, you are going to understand exactly how a weak mindset operates, why it sounds so reasonable, and why the most dangerous lies you will ever believe are the ones your own mind delivers in the calmest voice. You're going to see the precise mechanisms that have been quietly dismantling your dreams, and more importantly, you're going to walk away with the clarity to identify them the moment they appear. This is not inspiration. Inspiration fades. This is a breakdown, surgical, direct, and built for one purpose only: to hand you back the dream you stopped defending, the belief you quietly abandoned, and the version of yourself that has been waiting with extraordinary patience for you to finally show up. Don't look away. This is for you. Your comfort zone is not a safe place. It's a slow death. Every single day you stay inside it, something in you is quietly dying. Not dramatically, not all at once, slowly, the way a fire dies when you stop feeding it. You wake up, you go through the motions, you tell yourself you're being careful, being smart, being patient, and the world calls it stability. But deep down in the place you don't let people see, you know the truth. You're not resting, you're retreating. You've confused the absence of risk with the presence of safety, and that confusion is costing you everything. The comfort zone doesn't protect your dreams, it suffocates them. It takes the fire you were born with and wraps it in routine until the flame can't breathe. And the most dangerous part? It feels fine. That's the trap. Pain that feels like peace, stagnation dressed up as contentment. And then there's that voice, the one that says not yet, the one that shows up every time you get close to something real, something that actually matters. It sounds wise, it sounds measured. It says wait until you're more prepared, until the timing is better, until you've saved a little more, learned a little more, become a little more, and you listen. Every time you listen, because it sounds like it's protecting you. But that voice has been lying to you your whole life. It told you not yet when you were 25 and then again at 30, and the language changed slightly, but the outcome was always the same. You stayed still. That voice is not your intuition. It is not wisdom. It is fear that learned how to speak in complete sentences. It learned your name, your specific doubts, your exact weak points, and it uses them against you with surgical precision every single time you stand at the edge of something great. The voice says not yet because it knows that if you ever stop listening, if you ever call its bluff just once, you will discover what you were actually capable of, and that terrifies it. Not yet has stolen more dreams than failure ever could, because failure at least means you tried. Not yet means the dream is still waiting, still breathing, still yours, and you handed it back unopened. You didn't run out of time. You ran out of belief. That's the truth nobody wants to say out loud, because belief is harder to blame than a calendar. Time is concrete. You can point at it, measure it, use it as an excuse that everyone will nod along to. But belief is internal. Belief is yours. And when it runs dry, you can't point outward anymore. You have to look in the mirror. Most people never do. They spend years, decades even, constructing an elaborate story about timing. Too young, then too old. Too early, then too late. The window opened and closed, and they just missed it. Or so the story goes. But strip away the narrative, and what you find underneath is simpler and far more uncomfortable. They stopped believing the dream was still possible for them. Not for others. Others can have it. They cheer for others, share the stories of others, feel genuinely moved when someone else breaks through. But somewhere along the way, they quietly remove their own name from the list of people who get to win. That quiet removal, that small, almost imperceptible act of self-erasure is the real crime. Not the missed opportunity, not the wasted year. The moment you decided, without announcing it, that you were the exception to the possibility. Fear dressed as logic is still fear. And it is the most sophisticated con your mind will ever run on you. Because raw fear is easy to identify and push through. You feel it, you name it, you move anyway. But fear that has put on a suit, studied the data, learned to speak in bullet points, that fear is almost impossible to catch. It says things like the market isn't right, and I need more experience, and let me think this through a little longer. It builds spreadsheets. It finds research that supports staying still. It is articulate, calm, and completely convincing, and it is lying through every single word. The logic is real, but the conclusion is rigged, because the conclusion was always the same before the logic even started. Don't go. Don't risk it. Don't find out what happens if you actually try. Logic became the alibi and fear became the judge, and the verdict was decided long before the evidence was presented. You have to learn to recognize the feeling underneath the reasoning. That tightness, that over-preparation, that endless refining that never quite becomes action. That is fear. Dressed up, cleaned up, made respectable. But fear. The dream didn't die. You stopped defending it? There's a difference, and it matters more than most people are willing to admit. Death is final, passive, something that happens to you. But stopping is a choice. It happened gradually, almost invisibly, in the small moments where you chose silence over conviction. When someone questioned it and you shrugged instead of standing your ground. When life got loud and the dream got quiet and you told yourself you'd come back to it later. When later kept moving further away and you let it. Nobody took the dream from you. No circumstance was powerful enough to kill it without your cooperation. You fed the doubt more than you fed the vision. You spent more energy justifying why it was difficult than imagining why it was possible. And slowly, without a funeral, without a formal goodbye, you just stopped showing up for it. The dream is still there, untouched, waiting with a patience you haven't earned yet. The question was never whether it survived. The question is whether you're willing to go back, pick it up, and this time refuse to put it down no matter how loud the world gets. Average is just a choice you keep making every morning. Not once, not in one defining moment of weakness. Every single morning, in the first decisions of the day, in the standards you silently set or silently abandon. Average isn't a destination people aim for. Nobody writes it on a vision board. Nobody dreams about it as a child. It accumulates. It is the sum of 1,000 small surrenders that each felt reasonable in the moment. The snooze button, the conversation you avoided, the standard you lowered just slightly because the full standard felt like too much today. Repeat that enough times and it stops feeling like a choice. It starts feeling like personality. That's the danger. When the compromise becomes the identity, when settling becomes so familiar that it reads as wisdom, you have to shake yourself awake and ask one brutal question. Is this actually who I am, or is this just who I've been practicing being? Stop waiting to feel ready. Ready is built, not found. You will not wake up one morning flooded with certainty, perfectly prepared, finally equipped to begin. That moment is not coming. It was never coming. Readiness is not a feeling that arrives before action. It is a condition that action creates. Every person you admire who seemed ready when they stepped forward was not ready. They were scared and moving anyway, building confidence not in preparation but in motion, not in planning but in doing. The doing is the preparation. The start is the qualification. The story you tell yourself is the cage you live in. And the cruelest part is you built it, bar by bar, year by year, from every rejection you overlearned, every failure you over-remembered, every voice you gave too much authority. The cage has no lock because it needs none. You stay voluntarily, convinced the walls are facts when they are nothing but conclusions you stopped questioning. Change the story and the cage dissolves. Not the circumstances, not the past. Just the meaning you've been feeding like it deserves to survive. Your potential doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't negotiate, doesn't soften, doesn't adjust itself to match the story you've constructed about why now isn't the right time. It simply exists, massive, unmoved, indifferent to your hesitation, waiting to be claimed or abandoned. Every excuse you've ever made was real to you. The circumstances were genuine, but potential operates above circumstance. It doesn't shrink because life got hard. It doesn't expire because you waited too long. It just stands there, unchanged, asking the same question it has always been asking, are you coming or not? The biggest risk isn't failing, it's arriving at the end unlived. Failure leaves you with scars and stories and the deep knowledge that you were brave enough to try. But unlived, that leaves you with something no amount of comfort or caution can justify. The permanent, irreversible weight of wondering what would have happened if you had simply refused to play it safe. The safe life is not actually safe. It carries its own devastation, quieter but heavier, building slowly in the chest until it becomes the one regret that has no remedy. You have sat with this long enough to know it is true. The weak mindset was never the enemy outside. It was always the conversation inside. The doubt dressed as wisdom. The fear dressed as logic. The comfort dressed as patience. Every keynote you heard today was a mirror, and if something hit you, if something made you uncomfortable, that discomfort is not a warning to stop. It is a signal to begin. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are simply someone who now knows the difference between the voice that builds you and the voice that buries you. That knowledge, used with ruthless consistency, changes everything. Not someday, starting from the decision you make in the next 60 seconds. The dream is still yours. Go defend it like it deserves. Thank you for spending this time with Alpha Motivation World, where we don't do surface level motivation, we do transformation. If this speech moved something in you, hit like, leave a comment telling me which keynote hit hardest, and subscribe because what's coming next will go even deeper. Our next motivational speech is going to challenge everything you think you know about why most people never start and what separates the ones who do. Stay ready. We'll see you there.